Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and today I want to do something a little bit different. I normally do a tier list, but it's which faction needs the most DLC, which one needs a rework, all the usual stuff as you can imagine. Well, pretty much what everyone else does. But what I want to do today is a tier list focusing around which race is the most fun to play, going from S tier all the way down to F tier. Now I do imagine that we will get at least one more race before the end of this series, that being the Dogs of War, but everything that we've got so far is the core races that we've seen in lore, plus Cathay obviously, because Cathay is more a new thing, so I figured that this would be the perfect time to do so. Plus, if we're going by the 8-month mark, we might not see Dogs of War until next year, but we'll cross that bridge when we come across that. But before that, a big thank you to Instant Gaming for sponsoring this video. Instant Gaming is a platform where you'll be able to buy a bunch of different video games at discounted rates even before they launch. So if you're looking to take up maybe the new Monster Hunter game, you can get a discount at 30% off, even with the deluxe edition. There's a wide variety of different video games on offer every single day, and yeah, the prices are pretty damn good. If you're one of these people that like doing Warhammer Tabletop, for example, like myself, that can get kind of expensive, so you want to still pick up a game every now and then, you might as well get a good discount for it. Not only that, but we do have a monthly giveaway going on. Win the game of your choice. All you have to do is click on the link in the description below, sign up, and then just sign up to the actual giveaway, and there you go. It's a monthly thing. It's really nice that Instant Gaming have been providing that because honestly, it's a platform that I use fairly often myself. So if I can get you guys some good discounts whilst also seeing that it's a good platform, it just works out for everyone. Now, with all that being said, thank you to Instant Gaming for sponsoring this video. Let's jump into the regularly scheduled programming. Alright, we're going to start off with the first race, the Beastmen, and really these guys are the true winners of Total War Warhammer. They were pretty awful all the way up to Warhammer 2, but then got a pretty damn good rework, which thankfully still holds up in Game 3. Not only that, but ever since the Chaos DLC started happening for Game 3, they've been getting more and more additions each and every time. The Beastmen have benefited tremendously from this trilogy, and I imagine when Slaanesh DLC comes out and maybe Norsca DLC in the future, they'll still keep on winning if monsters keep getting added in. Really, the Beastmen are in a fantastic place. I wouldn't say that they're the most fun to play. Keep in mind that they're still kind of Horde faction, and you do have to deal with camps that really aren't that well defendable. They have a good variety of different characters, all of them specializing into different things, good start positions. Really the only thing that's lacking is unique mechanics for all the legendary lords, barring Torox, who has his. And combat for the Beastmen is super simple. Big monsters charge into the enemy, rip them apart. I mean, what's not to love? And for that, I'm just going to give them an A. I know that sounds pretty odd, but the Beastmen are one of my comfort factions. I can play Morga and just relax without too much of a problem. My only problem, again, is literally the lack of unique mechanics for Malagor, Khazrak, and Morga. It would be nice if a minor rework came in there. There's a certain level of, yeah, some things need to be updated, but other than that, the tech tree is decent, the mechanics are pretty good for the Beastmen at least. Maybe change up the camp a little bit to make it a little bit defendable, but it's definitely a unique campaign and it is much better than the old Horde system that we had in Warhammer 1. The Beastmen are in a very good place, and as long as Chaos keeps getting DLCs with monsters, they're just going to keep getting stuff. I'd not say no to a Beastmen legendary hero though. I think that would be kind of nice to get something there, at least one, and maybe another Lord option, generic one with the Centaurs would be lovely. But I don't think they're going to get any DLCs dedicated to them anymore. It's kind of obvious here at this point. Bretonnia's up next, and this was a faction that was free, so nobody paid for it, barring, you know, just buying Warhammer 1. They're a pretty interesting thing because they've had attention. They've even got another legendary lord. They originally started with 3. My big problem with Bretonnia is the Warhammer 2 rework didn't really age that well, and the update that came for them in Game 3 wasn't good at all. In fact, it was broken at launch. There's a lot of fantasy missing from Bretonnia. The roster is fairly decent. I know some people would fight me on that, but an issue with Bretonnia is that their mechanics feel kind of empty. The, you know, chivalry system keeps you from raiding, which I kind of get that, but it kind of punishes you for a lot of reasons. I feel like what would have made Bretonnia like really fun is the introduction of a crusade mechanic, something which is really embedded into Bretonnian lore, and it's kind of disappointing that we just never got that. And I'm going to have to put them on C tier for a number of reasons. So one is the fact that they don't have any legendary heroes and there's no crusade mechanic. Not only that, but Bretonnia suffers from map fatigue. I don't know if you guys have played through Bretonnia, even invading it or defending it, but there is like, what, 20 settlements, maybe a little bit more, and they share the same 3 settlements. I think it's 2 major and 1 minor. It feels awful, because you could be defending different settlements and it's just the same maps over and over. Yes, I know there's 2 other characters there. Rapunzel's down in Araby, she's fine, to be honest. It's a fun campaign and she does have kind of unique mechanic, and Alberic is in Lustria, which kind of cool, but even still, it's a lot of horses for a map area which is just all jungles. We can't get the old world stuff, it seems. Maybe Creative Assembly haven't even asked for the IP, because, I mean, it's fairly well known that Cubicle 7 asked for the IP and they got it. They're making something there. So if they told the RPG guys yes, I doubt that they would say no for CA, but it's very easy to ignore the lack of foot characters if we had like a Crusade mechanic which kind of added a little bit there flavor, or, you know, just fixing up certain key issues. I hate that I'm putting Bretonnia so down there. I love Bretonnia as a faction. I've been painting so many Bretonnians, and I really want to like them, but I feel like they did suffer because they ended up being a free race pack. Alright, Chaos Dwarfs are next. So, it's a race pack that got introduced in Warhammer 3, very, very unique. It's a race that a lot of people wanted. Probably one of the most unique campaigns that we have in Total War Warhammer, because it's so structured with heavy mechanics, a very interesting roster which you need to kind of unlock as you progress. Very similar to that of the Beastmen, but there's more work to be done there. I really enjoy the Chaos Dwarfs. I think the only problem there is the lack of a 4th Legendary Lord. It's just a bit difficult, I guess, to what they could have gotten and where they could have put him. Plus, we know that Chateau was a no from GW, so that's something that always has to be taken into account. Chaos Dwarfs set a new standard for race packs, and I think that's a big thing. If we ever get any new races, that needs to be taken into account. They need to look at it and compare it to the Chaos Dwarfs. I'm going to put them on S. I know some people would say, well, you know, it's missing the 4th character, blah, 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 and I would agree, but the Chaos Dwarfs brought some complexity that I didn't think that we needed in Total War Warhammer. In fact, in Total War in general, I'd love to see more complex campaigns like that. Yes, it's mostly number generating, it's playing with spreadsheets in the same vein that you would do with, like, Crusader Kings, for example, but it really made them incredibly fun, and I have nothing to complain about them. Again, if we get like a Total War 40k in the future or something, I want to see that level of complexity coming in, because it shows that Creative Assembly staff can indeed innovate and add to factions and just make them really fun. Alright, Daniel. So this one's a bit of a hot topic because it's very well known that I don't like Daniel. The thing is, Daniel's campaign is incredibly unique. You have all 4 monogod rosters, you're able to play around there and pick and choose, you can go undivided, you've got the builder. It's a really fun campaign. And yes, I would say as fun as, say, for example, the Chaos Dwarfs in that regard. The only thing that I don't like about Daniel is Daniel himself. It's the whole Prince Yuri player insert thing. I find player inserts very strange, especially for a game like Warhammer, right? Like even just Total War, but just Warhammer in general. Player inserts are very, very odd. But despite the fact that I don't like Daniel as a character, yeah, I'm going to have to put him on A tier. He could be better. There could be some options and stuff like that to kind of change some stuff around. He had some new items given to him for the Tzeentch event thing that happened with Creative Assembly with Intel, but there's not been new items for like the other gods, which is a bit of a shame. But yeah, no, he's very, very fun. I don't like him as a character. I like him as a faction. Definitely like him as a faction. Believe me, it does pain me to say this, but yeah. There's nothing wrong with the faction. Dark Elves are up next, and this one's a fun one. They got a lot of attention during Warhammer 2, a decent amount of DLCs, even some free content that just popped out of nowhere. It's a race that a lot of people do like because you've got a lot of armor piercing, but you've also got a lot of that edginess that the Dark Elves always present in Warhammer Fantasy, which I think a lot of people are very much attached to. The only real problem with the Dark Elves is that they're showing their age in terms of playability. It would be nice if they had a big rework. A lot of people are calling for a Dark Elf DLC, and myself included, but really, a big rework would solve a lot of those problems. Give some unique stuff to Malekith and Morathi. Morathi does have some unique stuff, but it's kind of stripped and bare bones. And just fix up some issues, like, say, for example, the tech tree. It would be nice if they got a revisit there. yep, they'd be good as gold, and I can still fire up a Dark Elf campaign and have a little bit of fun. But a nice little update could bring them in line with Game 3 and then be done with them. I think a lot of these races just need a small little update, and they're pretty much sorted. But for that, I'm going to have to give them a B tier, which is not too bad. It's still like a B+. One little update to bring them more in line with Game 3, and they'll shoot up to A. If they get a fun DLC, just adding in a few characters here and there, a bunch of legendary heroes, you know, some missing stuff, maybe even just a little bit of like a heavy rework towards Morathi and Malekith, just to give them something really special, yeah, they'd shoot up to S. A is not bad. A is still very, very good. These are factions that I keep going back to in a sense. A and S are very good rankings. Alright, Dwarfs now. So Game 1 race, which received multiple DLCs over the lifespan up to Game 3, had 3 reworks, technically 3.5. They had a lot of attention. Sure, a lot of stuff didn't hit the mark originally, but as it got patched in, yeah, it's pretty good. They've got a lot of fun characters to play around with, and the good thing about the Dwarfs is they have a lot of variety, right? Yeah, sure, it's a dwarf, but you've got one up there in Norsca, you've got one down there in the Southlands. You've got so much to play around with that if you like the Dwarfs, you can keep coming back to it. The fact is, you've also got different playstyles. You can be very aggressive, or you can just turtle up and just unite the Karazhan Corps at your own pace. I really like the Dwarfs. I think Thrones of Decay kind of completed them. There's only one thing missing for them, really. I'm going to put them on A, but they're very, very close to S. The reason why I'm putting them on A and not S is because the Thrones of Decay DLC, while it was very good and it did fix up a lot of issues with the Dwarfs, I would have loved to see a proper fix-up of Belegar's mechanic. It would have just been nice. That's something that we could see in a patch down the line, though. And a unique mechanic for Thorgrim and Ungrim. Those two characters having something a bit more special would be great, because that would mean that all the Dwarfs kind of have something going on for them, which is quite important because that allows for replayability. But again, it's an A, very close to S. Alright, so now we're jumping onto Grand Cathay, and this is a brand new race. We had some Cathay models back in like 3rd edition, but it was never really a full race, and it's something that has been a collaborative effort between Games Workshop and Creative Assembly. Cathay has gotten decent attention, a few mini reworks through patches here and there. They've only had one DLC so far, and it wasn't the best DLC, however, they did eat well in the 2.0 version of that DLC. I think we haven't seen everything with regards to Cathay, but they do play fairly well as it stands. Obviously, a lot of people are waiting for like a Monkey King or a Yin Yin DLC so we can get some monkeys or pirates and stuff, but they are kind of just the Eastern Empire and they do that very well. Big monsters, heavy guns, good infantry. I'm going to give them a B. I'm expecting 2 more DLCs. One DLC will take them to A, and the other one will take them to S, and then they'll be complete, right? It's what we're kind of expecting at this point. Maybe that's something that happens, maybe it's not, but it's way too obvious that Cathay is missing a lot, right? We've seen the lore interviews, we've heard a lot about them. They're coming to the tabletop soon, too, so I guess it's going to be around that time that we'll be able to start seeing more Cathayan stuff. As a race to play around with, they're quite fun. It would be nice if Miao Yin and Zhao Ming had their own unique mechanics, just to kind of elevate them a little bit more. Technically, Miao Yin does, and Zhao Ming just has it anyway, but you know what I mean there, right? Maybe something a little bit more ogre-y for Zhao Ming. Alright, so the Greenskins now. They actually have gotten a decent amount of attention. Decent DLC amounts in 1, 2, and 3. Last one being with the Omens of Destruction stuff. I feel like the Greenskins are in a pretty good spot. The problem is that the last DLC, Omens of Destruction, didn't help the Greenskins overall. The DLC seemed fairly centered around Gorbad. Yes, Wurzag got a little bit of love there, and I'm forever grateful about that because the Savage Orc faction is my favorite, but nothing new for Grimgor, nothing new for Azag. Skarsnik still feels kind of empty-ish. Again, that's more tied to like a possible future 8 Peaks patch, which would be really lovely, by the way, just in case I haven't mentioned it enough today. I'm going to put them on B tier. They're simple, but they're good. They're in a good spot overall, I would say, mostly because, yeah, you know, they had that really good rework in Game 2, which has aged a little bit, but it's still aging gracefully. You have a lot of different characters to play around with, so you've got a few goblins, you've got a few orcs. My only issue, and I think that's just me that cares at this point, it would be nice to get a forest goblin lord too. This is why I was still hoping for like a big Champions of Chaos style DLC for the Greenskins, but that's never really going to happen now. If the Greenskins get another DLC through the lifespan of Game 3, I'll be extremely surprised. Let's just put it that way, right? Okay, High Elves are next, and again, a lot of attention in Game 2. Few DLCs there, few free characters there too. honestly, the High Elves are in a very good spot. In terms of content, they're in a very, very good spot. And it's very likely that they're going to get a little bit more content when it comes to Game 3. An educated guess would say that it would be High Elves versus Slaanesh versus whoever else. The only thing that the High Elves actually suffer from is that they're kind of bland. A rework of the tech tree would be amazing, because it is god-awful, and some extra mechanics coming in here and there would be lovely. Really, it's just Tyrion and Teclis that are kind of missing stuff, but it would be nice if they had something just to make them feel a little bit more unique. Tyrion could do something with like a more enhanced version of the court mechanic, and Teclis, I mean, it's just something in general, right? I'm going to put them on B, mostly because they're missing content and they're missing a bit of a rework. So kind of similar to that of Cathay, where 2 DLCs would take them up to S. I think a content drop and a rework coming in for the High Elves would actually really just shoot them up to S tier. Stuff like the Lothan Skycutter, the Merworm, we're all expecting that, especially since, you know, they're kind of valid now in the old world, and there does seem some cross-promotion that's going on. So I would say that, yeah, they're in a pretty damn good spot. Okay, this one we're going to do a little bit different. We're going to do all 4 monogods together, mostly because you can't actually run monogod lists on the tabletop. You could during the end times, I guess, but that's pretty much it, and nobody really cares about the end times. And they're not even a thing during the old world. You can run monogod demons, but you can't mix them up with warriors. They never had their own separate army books, which makes them very separated here when it comes to Total War Warhammer. There's 4 of them: Khorne, Nurgle, Slaanesh, and Tzeentch. Right now, 3 of the 4, barring Slaanesh, have had DLCs, and some have been better than others, that's definitely for sure. But it's really interesting to see because each of them have had their DLCs in a variety of different stylings, right? Shadows of Change had to get redone, well, added to it. The Thrones of Decay one seemed to be almost near perfect, and there's been a few hits and misses with the Omens of Destruction one, so I feel like it's great to see them compared in some way, shape, or form. And this is how I'm going to justify it. Nurgle as an S tier. Yeah, I know you're surprised because I don't really like Nurgle that much, but as a playable faction, it's wonderful. The mechanic is very, very fun. The fact that all of them have something kind of unique. Even Kugath has his own super plague, so that makes him really interesting there. There's only 3 legendary lords for the monogods so far, well, barring Tzeentch and Slaanesh, but Nurgle, I can literally play any of the 3 characters and have a lot of fun with, and even with different stylings too. You're incentivized for different styles of play. Khorne I'm actually going to put on A because I'm having a lot of fun with Khorne. You don't have to think a lot with Khorne, it's literally just go in and do damage. However, had Creative Assembly done something unique for Scarbrand, I feel like it would have gone in an S. I know it's not the best DLC for a lot of people, but I like simplicity sometimes when it comes to a faction that requires simplicity. It's what makes it fun. So yeah, I'm happy about that. Slaanesh, as much as it pains me, is going to go down on B tier. Who knows what this next DLC does for it, but right now it's only 1 Legendary Lord, and it's not really the best start, it's not the most fun. Once we get 2 more Legendary Lords, I could easily see it going up to S tier. There's no rework kind of needed, just a quality of life update like Khorne got would be more than enough. Tzeentch, unfortunately, yeah, C. I would have loved to give it more. I would have really loved to give it more. The problem is, Shadows of Change still doesn't feel right. It doesn't. There's stuff that's clearly missing. We're missing another Legendary Lord. The Changeling, there's only one reason to use the Changeling, and you play it once and that's it. There's no reason to go back to him. There's a few things that they could still do to improve Shadows of Change and justify that DLC a lot more. Alright, Kislev now, and Kislev's a weird one because again, it's technically a new race, it's been remade with a collaboration between Creative Assembly and Games Workshop, but I feel like they missed the mark on this a lot. There are right now 4 Legendary Lords, having 3 since launch and then 1 from a DLC. The unique one in the DLC is quite fun. There's a lot of Church versus State, which is really odd. That's never really been a thing for Kislev. It was kind of hinted, but now it's become like a real big thing. And the units kind of tie alongside that. The roster's not bad, don't get me wrong, but I feel like a lot more could have been done. And it does feel like Kislev is going to get the short end of the stick. One race always gets the short end of the stick. I still think that they're going to try and redeem Tzeentch. Kislev might get something in the future. I don't think they're going to get any more DLCs. To be honest, I don't think there was really that much to go around for. I think that what they did for Shadows of Change 2.0 was literally scraping the barrel. That might not be a Creative Assembly issue. It might actually be a Games Workshop issue. Keep that there in mind too. But yeah, it just doesn't really tickle my fancy. I'm going to put them on C tier, but I was very close to putting them on D tier. We do know that the Shadows of Change 3.0 is coming up, right? well, we don't know exactly what it's going to be, but it's very much likely going to just be some updates. If Kislev can get some stuff just to fix up the core problems of Kislev, I could definitely see them shooting up to A tier. I don't imagine we'll ever see Kislev going up to S tier unless we start seeing some Ungol stuff and some primal shit for Kislev to make them feel like Kislev used to, but I think that's all long gone. Lizardmen, a lot of attention in Game 2, and I mean a lot of attention. Let's be very clear there. They had a bunch of DLCs, they had some FLC characters, they've got a legendary hero, I think before most races even got a legendary hero. A lot of attention, but the problem is that the attention was not spent in the right locations in some cases. The Lizardmen suffer from a lot of issues, like for example, a frustrating, and I mean seriously frustrating tech tree. Some building aspects are just not great. There needs to be a little bit more. They still fall way behind, which is really strange considering that the High Elves do better, the Dark Elves do better, and the Skaven just do really, really well. I'm going to have to put them on D tier, and I know what you're going to say. Well, what about Nakai? What about Oxyotl? Those guys are quite unique. They've got their own fresh campaigns. And yes, that's true. But the problem is that 2 unique characters, but the race failing is not really a good thing. There's definitely enough content that could be done for another Lizardmen DLC, even a possible legendary hero and so on. I think what needs to be done here is just one big massive patch, I don't even care about another DLC, and bring them up. If they can jump in and do a massive Lizardman patch and rework a bunch of the characters, I could see them really shooting up all the way up to A tier. They'll never be S, and that's mostly because I just don't like the Lizardmen too much, but I could see them really shine as they deserve to. Norsca, yeah, I mean, Norsca is one of those factions which, unfortunately, they got introduced in Game 1, they were supposed to be a Game 2 race. The funny thing is, they were always built to be a Game 2 race and just never felt like a Game 2 race at all. They've fallen behind dramatically over everyone else. They had a little bit of an update in Warhammer 3's launch for the Immortal Empires, which made them really a little bit more fun, but it's still very obvious that maybe there was just no proper planning on what this was going to be. Keep in mind that when Norsca came out, it was still very early onto the series. They were probably still figuring out what exactly they wanted to do. And for that, I'm going to have to put them on F tier. However, I and you and all of us know that Creative Assembly, especially with Game 3, have been doing wonderful stuff with reworks. Wonderful stuff. So I could imagine a Norsca DLC coming up and shooting them all the way up to A tier. If we get a Tribes of the North situation, we'll probably see them go up to S tier, but I very much doubt that could ever happen. It depends on Games Workshop there. I have a little bit of hope. I haven't written them off completely, but there's no way that I'm going to be playing them in vanilla, and in some cases even modded nowadays, until that next DLC ever comes. Ogre Kingdoms, a faction that was the pre-order incentive for Game 3. A lot of people were worried about that, because pre-order factions, as you can tell, require a second DLC to fix. And it's the same case here. They ended up getting a brand new DLC in Omens of Destruction, which gave them a bunch of missing stuff. Pretty much the ogres are complete now. Lord, hero choices, everything. And a brand new legendary lord, which was very much beloved. The ogres are in a very good spot now. I don't imagine any more characters stuff coming in. It's a shame though, because there's a few missing characters which would be lovely. But really, I don't see too much of a fault with the ogres now. A lot of people hated them back in the day, myself included. They seem in a pretty good spot now. I'm going to put them on A tier, and this is because they had a really good rework. It actually made them really fun. Both of their characters, also the base game characters, Greasus and Scrog, ended up getting some really fun extra mechanics for them. They're not big mechanics, but they're enough to justify you having another playthrough. They're kind of done. Literally, the only way I could see them getting to S tier is if we end up getting another legendary lord and a legendary hero. So they would have 2 legendary heroes and 4 legendary lords. I don't think that's going to happen. It would be nice if we ended up getting Gark Iron Skin, to be honest. No unique units, just something there. This is why I keep saying that character packs would be lovely. But yeah, I mean, they're in a good spot. I'm having fun. In fact, I was playing an Ogre Kingdoms campaign recently. So, yeah. Skaven, a lot of attention. Really, a lot of attention. They got DLCs, they got FLCs. Sure, the FLC wasn't too great because it's Tzeentch and nobody really cares about Tzeentch, but the Skaven have had a lot of love in Warhammer 2, which, funny enough, did get the player base to have a little bit of fatigue for the Skaven. That being said, we are expecting at least one more DLC having them because Fangcall is something that a lot of people want and some End Times units there. So now that we know that the End Times units are available to use, I think Skaven players are eating well as it stands, and they could eat a little bit better, but it's like the whole thing of getting close to perfection. I'm putting them on S tier because I think most people just care about Ikit Claw or Deathmaster Snicketch. They could get like an S+. This would be one of those races that would only get S+. I don't think any others would if they ended up doing the following, right? Thankwall, that's what people want. Vermin Lords, End Times units like Stormfiends, Plagues for Skrulk, a bit of a rework for Queekhead Taker, but that's again something that I expect in an 8 Peaks patch. And there you go. I don't really care too much about Tzeentch myself, I'll be very honest with you. But other than that, I mean, yeah, they're fun. I can still play Skrulk and have a lot of fun with it. Hell, there's a Plagues for Skrulk mod, which I really much enjoy. But really, like, they're Skaven a peak. Empire's next, the vanilla faction, but one of the most popular ones in the history of Warhammer Fantasy, and it looks like they're going to be very popular for the Old World also. They've had a lot of attention throughout the game series, DLC in Game 2, DLC in Game 3. They still need more DLC. You know, Boris needs to get his day. There's still a lot of missing characters for the Empire, but it's just adding to perfection. Especially since when they got DLC in Game 3, this was during Thrones of Decay, they ended up getting a rework, not for the race was already done, but a rework for France, for Gelt. Everyone now has something unique, everyone's playing in a different level. They're in such a good spot. I have nothing but high hopes for the Empire in the future. Volton, Boris Todbringer, and who knows what else. I'd love to see Maris Lightdorf as an FLC character too. Voiced by Wes Johnson, that's like my ultimate dream. I think it's no surprise that they're going on S tier. They're such a fantastic race to play around with. It's simple, and yes, it's kind of difficult if you're playing as France because you're dealing with so many different enemies, but I think that's what everyone expects, and that's what everyone wants. This is why it keeps getting memed on, even by Creative Assembly, like when Omens of Destruction came out, the trailer was focusing on Karl Franz getting attacked from all sides. It's not even DP, it's triple P. In general, if we get Boris Todbringer and the Cult of Ulrich, I think they're pretty much done. If they can get anything extra, why not? But they're in a very good spot. I love the Empire right now. Tomb Kings. Okay, so this one's another big one, right? It's what set the standard for race packs, which really is something special to look at. It's 4 legendary lords. It's a unique race with unique style of play. All the starting positions are far enough to be kind of different, even though 3 of them kind of overlap, but it kind of makes sense considering that the lore of the Tomb Kings is very much centered around Nehekara. The faction is very unique. I have no complaints. I love the Tomb Kings right now. It could just be because I'm playing a lot of Tomb Kings in Old World and painting up some more and sorting out a 2nd and 3rd Necrolith Bone Dragon. And that would be fun to see in Total War, but unfortunately I very much doubt that we're going to see that. Really, the Tomb Kings are in a very good spot. And for that, I'm going to put them on S tier preemptively. So, I really do think that we're going to get some more Tomb King stuff during a potential Nagash release. It just kind of makes sense. Prince Epiphas is a legendary hero. If they could just give a few little changes towards the Tomb Kings, literally just making the Tomb Kings have a unique mechanic per character, even if it's just a minor thing, kind of like what Epidemius had and a few others, that would just really make them great. But I can sit down and I go, I feel like playing the Tomb Kings, and I'm spoiled for choice. I actually have to like roll a dice. I roll a D4 to pick which Tomb King character, well, sometimes D3, let's be honest, I don't really play a lot of Catap, but I will roll a dice to be able to pick up a character and have a lot of fun with them. So I like the Tomb Kings, and I really do hope that they just get a little bit more when it comes to the Nagash release, if that ever happens. Vampire Coast. So they never had an army book. They instead were a supplement for 6th edition, which is kind of nice. At the end of the day, you know, it's a nice throwback. A lot of people love the Vampire Coast. 3 characters which really fit in there, one that really doesn't, because Aranessa, funny enough, is part of the lore, yet Solistra, who was created specifically for Total War, ends up fitting more with the styling of the race. I still like them. I think that they're very fun. The campaign's kind of cool. It's a shame that like the whole narrative aspect is kind of lost there, even though it's still kind of in the game. And I'll admit that they have slightly fallen behind. It's not like they're in a really big spot at the moment. A little quality of life update here and there I think could just fix them up, but I'm going to put them on B tier. I mean, it's not something that I expect. I'm not expecting more content for them anytime soon. I think a little bit of an update just to kind of bring them in line with Game 3 will be enough to put them on A, and that's fine. It's a shame, but they never had an army book. There's no big amount of source material to work behind. Whatever happens, I mean, it would be nice if they did get something during Nagash, but I doubt it. I'm still happy that they're here, and I can still have fun with them. Mostly with Lufa. If they had a little bit, just something special. Again, it's something that Creative Assembly shied away from originally with the base game characters and so on, that there always has to be one more vanilla styling, but they don't seem to be doing that now. They seem to be focusing on just like, yeah, let's give people some fun stuff. They'd be a lot higher. I could never see them on S. Let's be honest there. I don't think anyone would be able to see them as an S tier, but they're in a pretty good spot. Uniqueness, amazing. But fun factor, they're kind of falling behind. Okay, vampire counts now. Rapid fire attention in game 1 and then just completely ignored in game 2 and then game 3. They did have a little bit of a small patch, like minuscule, but that's pretty much it. The problem is that there's so much that they can do with the vampire counts, and I think that Creative Assembly just doesn't know how to approach that, or they're waiting for the perfect time. Neferata is a given at some point. I'm really hoping that she's not alongside Nagash. The vampire counts could do with a lot of attention. Not only another rework to actually finish them off, but characters. Right now it's centered around necromancers and the von Carsteins, and it's incredibly boring because of that. I could have a fun campaign with them, and I feel like a lot of people still can, but it's time that we got something fresh and new. I'm going to have to put the vampire counts on C tier, unfortunately. Until something happens, they're just not too fun. I can have fun with Vlad, I can have fun with Manfred, or Ghost, or even Heinrich. The problem is it's feeling old, it's feeling stale, and it's really, really noticeable now. It's not saying that it's a bad race and there's people who very much enjoy them, but it's definitely time that we started seeing something new. It makes me question how Creative Assembly start deciding which factions get DLC or not. It's really, really strange, isn't it? Warriors of Chaos. Okay, so this one's a faction which was released in Warhammer 1. This was the pre-order incentive. They were in a pretty bad spot throughout Game 1. Well, Game 1 they were okay. Game 2, it wasn't just like you just no reason to play as them. However, Game 3 came in with the Champions of Chaos DLC and a massive rework that finally made this race extremely fun. I can sit down and play Warriors of Chaos just non-stop. It's a faction that we are spoiled for choice because you've got Undivided with 5 different pathways, then you've got the Mono God styling ones, so you've got actual choice here, and I feel like it's really, really good. Not only that, but they keep eating well, because when new Mono God Mortal units are added in, well, that one starts getting into the Warriors of Chaos stuff. It's great to see, and I would love to see it more. We got a Slaanesh DLC coming up, and I'm hoping that we get some fun units there, but they're in a very good spot. I'm going to put the Warriors of Chaos on S tier. Sure, I would love a few extra Legendary Lords here and there, but the map's already too congested and there's like, 9 Legendary Lords for the Warriors of Chaos? I just see it as they're pretty much done, and while Mono Gods are still getting extra content, there's a chance of them getting extra content too. It's still very much in the same vein as the Beastmen, but the Warriors of Chaos do feel a bit better than the Beastmen. My only thing that could put them in like an S+ for the Warriors of Chaos is if they introduce more Dark Fortresses, which is definitely needed, or a radical update towards the vassal system, because you rely very heavily on vassals, and yeah, it's not fun, right? Because most of the vassals don't actually work. And here we are with the Wood Elves. So, yep, Game 1 race, DLC, wasn't great. Wasn't even great in Game 1. Did get a radical update in Game 2, which made them a lot better. There were still issues with Game 2. Keep that in mind, because, you know, the Dave project stuff, the Forgers, wasn't really working as intended. That got a beta and fixed up, though, because at that time it was just very, very proactive there. Probably even more so than Warhammer 3 is right now, and Warhammer 3 is getting a lot more proactive when it comes to CA devs. My only real issue with them is that all the characters kind of play the same way. Sure, this is an incentivization because, you know, more elves with Orion, more trees with Durfu, mostly trees with Dryka, which Dryka is probably the most fun of the characters, I think. And then the sisters have a little bit of everything. But here we are, and I'm going to give them... Yeah, you know what? I'm just going to give them an A tier. I could see another Legendary Lord popping up, but there's no more content left. It's still fun, though. The Wood Elves are in a very good spot. I'm maybe being a bit generous, and I think that some people would say, yeah, you're being generous. But if you've played them in Game 1, and you've played them in Game 2, post-rework, you know how they are. They're so much better now. It's apples and oranges. You're very isolationist. You're actually more isolationist here than the Dwarfs are, but they're in a fantastic spot. They're in a very, very good spot. And yeah, that's how I see it. I'll give you a fun fact. When I was doing the early access stuff for the Old World, right? So when I was building up the Bretonnians and the Tomb Kings and stuff, I was playing a Wood Elf campaign as I was doing it, because it's so casual that I'm able to build and paint models and just relax. So I think that's a big thing, and it stays close to my heart because of that. But yeah, this is my ranking, which isn't too bad. There's a lot of S, A, and B tier, which, that's good. Honestly, I know some people see B tier as bad, but I see B tier as, yeah, you know, needs improvement, but it's fun. So S would be like near perfect, A would be great, B is like need improvement, but still can have a lot of fun. C is needs real improvement, D is like, oh my god, I need a lot of help, and F is, yeah, it's either a waiting room or we'll have to see how that DLC goes. Of course, this is just my opinion, and you guys could have different opinions, so let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Let's have a bit of a discussion. It's a bit of a longer video, but I wanted to do this because a lot of people ask me on streams, like, which race do you have the most fun with? Which one's this? I'm going just purely by fun factor. It's not like who had the best content and stuff like that. And, like, believe me, I'm not being as biased here as possible because Slaanesh is on B, and everyone knows that it's my favorite faction, so that would be up in S. But we're going to have to wait and see what this next DLC happens. God, I hope that the Slaanesh DLC is closer to the quality with Thrones of Decay. That's my only hope. That's my only hope and fear. But yeah, have a great day, everyone. I'll see you all again very, very soon.